Midnight Encounters. The rain lashed against the windows of Forgotten Whispers, Aya Nakamura's modest rare book appraisal, shop tucked between towering modern buildings in Crestfall City's oldest district. The ancient brass bell above the door had remained silent all evening as the storm kept potential customers away. Aya sighed, twirling a strand of her jet-black hair while organizing a recent acquisition of 18th-century poetry volumes. Another night of just me and the books, she murmured to herself, glancing at the antique clock showing nearly midnight. She considered closing early when lightning split the sky, illuminating the silhouette of someone outside her door. The bell chimed violently as the door burst open, admitting a gust of wind and rain along with a tall, elegant woman. She wore a crimson coat that seemed to shimmer with moisture, her long dark hair falling in perfect waves despite the storm. "I apologize for the late intrusion," the woman said, her voice carrying a subtle accent Aya couldn't quite place. "Are you still open for business?" Aya nodded, suddenly self-conscious of her simple attire and the reading glasses perched on her nose. "Yes, I was just about to close, but please come in. Can I help you find something specific?" The woman removed her coat, revealing an expensive-looking black dress that contrasted with her unusually pale skin. "My name is Dr. Chen. I'm searching for a very particular volume." Her eyes scanned the shelves with an intensity that made Aya shiver. "What kind of book?" Aya asked, moving toward her reference catalog. Dr. Chen approached the counter, moving with unusual grace. "It's called Bloodlines of the Ancient World. Leather-bound manuscript with silver embossing. It would likely be at least 2 centuries old." Aya's eyes widened. "That's remarkably specific. Most people come in with vague descriptions or half-remembered titles." She hesitated. "I might actually have something similar in my private collection. My grandmother left me several unusual volumes that I haven't fully cataloged." Dr. Chen's expression shifted subtly, a spark of interest in her dark eyes. "Your grandmother collected rare books?" "She was rather eccentric," Aya explained, leading Dr. Chen toward the back room. "She traveled extensively and collected items that most dealers wouldn't touch. Books of folklore, supposed magical texts, volumes with dubious provenance." The back room smelled of leather, parchment, and the faintest hint of incense. Aya gestured toward a comfortable chair. "Please make yourself at home while I look. Would you like some tea to warm up from the storm?" "No, thank you," Dr. Chen replied, remaining standing. "I don't often indulge in conventional refreshments." Aya raised an eyebrow but said nothing as she unlocked an ornate wooden chest. She carefully lifted stacks of books, examining each one. "May I ask why you're interested in this particular volume? It's quite an obscure topic." Dr. Chen moved closer, watching Aya's hands with unusual focus. "Family research. My ancestry has certain unique branches that I'm attempting to trace." "Wait," Aya said suddenly, pulling out a heavy book with dark leather binding and tarnished silver decorations on the spine. "This might be what you're looking for." As she lifted it to the reading table, their hands brushed briefly. Aya gasped at the unexpected coldness of Dr. Chen's skin. "Are you all right?" Dr. Chen asked, her voice softer than before. "Yes, sorry. Your hands are just cold from the rain, I suppose." Aya carefully opened the book, revealing pages of elegantly handwritten text and intricate illustrations, depicting what appeared to be family trees with strange symbols. Dr. Chen's breath caught. "This is it. How extraordinary that you would have this exact volume. My grandmother always said some books find their way to where they need to be." Aya said with a small smile. "What can you tell me about it?" "I've never fully translated the text." Dr. Chen's fingers hovered over the pages without touching them. "It chronicles the lineages of what the author believed were supernatural bloodlines." She hesitated. "Most would dismiss it as fantasy." "Of course, yet you're searching for it specifically," Aya observed, studying Dr. Chen's face under the shop's amber lights. The woman's skin seemed to glow with an almost pearlescent quality. "I'm a scholar of folklore and mythology," Dr. Chen replied smoothly. "Even tales have kernels of truth worth exploring." As Aya turned a page, she gasped at an illustration showing a pale woman with distinctive features not unlike Dr. Chen's. Before she could comment, her finger caught on the ancient paper, drawing a small bead of blood. Dr. Chen stepped back abruptly, turning away. You've injured yourself. It's just a paper cut, Aya said, reaching for a tissue. She noticed how rigidly Dr. Chen stood, how her shoulders tensed. Dr. Chen, are you all right? When the woman turned back, something had changed in her eyes. They seemed darker, more intense. Your blood, she whispered. It smells familiar. Aya froze, tissue pressed against her finger. What do you mean? Dr. Chen approached slowly, her movements measured and careful. The book mentions a human whose blood carries a specific scent, one that would be recognizable to those of certain ancestry, one who could bridge worlds long divided. You speak as if… Aya couldn't finish the thought, her heart racing. Lightning flashed again, briefly casting Dr. Chen's face in stark relief. For just a moment, Aya thought she glimpsed something impossible, elongated canines and eyes with a reddish glow. What are you? Aya whispered, not stepping back despite her rising fear. Dr. Chen smiled, revealing perfect teeth that now appeared completely normal. Perhaps the better question is, who are you, Aya Nakamura? And why does the ancient prophecy in this book seem to describe you so perfectly? Outside, thunder crashed as their eyes locked, a silent understanding passing between them. The storm raged on, but inside the small bookshop, something ancient and powerful had just begun to awaken. Veiled Truths 3. Days had passed since the stormy night when Dr. Chen vanished from Forgotten Whispers with a promise to return. Aya couldn't shake the memory of those intense eyes or the strange conversation about her blood. She'd spent every spare moment researching vampire folklore, torn between rational skepticism and the undeniable strangeness of their encounter. The shop bell chimed as Cooper, her childhood friend and local journalist, sauntered in. You look terrible, he announced, placing a coffee on the counter. Still obsessing over that mysterious doctor? I'm not obsessing, Aya protested weakly. There was just something about her that I can't explain. Cooper leaned against a bookshelf. Tall, gorgeous, mysterious woman comes in during a storm, gets weird about a paper cut, then disappears. Classic vampire behavior, if you ask me. His laugh faded when Aya didn't join in. Wait, you're not seriously considering that, are you? Before she could answer, the bell chimed again. Dr. Chen stood in the doorway, now dressed in an impeccable charcoal suit that accentuated her tall, slender frame. Sunglasses covered her eyes despite the cloudy day. Ms. Nakamura, she said with a slight bow. I hope I'm not interrupting. Cooper's jaw dropped as he glanced between them. I'll check in later, he mumbled, giving Aya a wide-eyed look before slipping out. Once alone, Dr. Chen removed her sunglasses, revealing eyes that seemed to shift between dark brown and a deep crimson. I owe you an explanation, she said softly. Are you… Aya couldn't bring herself to say the word. A vampire? Dr. Chen completed with a small smile. Yes, though we prefer the term hemiphage in modern times. She moved with that uncanny grace to the back room. May we speak privately? Once seated, Dr. Chen, or Vivienne as she asked to be called, explained her true identity as Vivienne Chen, heiress to one of the oldest vampire dynasties hidden beneath Crestfall City. For centuries, the Chen family had maintained a delicate peace between human and vampire societies, operating businesses and research facilities that benefited both worlds while keeping their true nature hidden. The book you have, Vivienne explained, contains the Crimson Prophecy, a prediction that a human with special blood would come at a time of great division among our kind. This human would be the catalyst for change, either uniting our worlds or becoming the final wedge that drives us apart forever. And you think that's me? Aya asked incredulously. Because of a paper cut? Vivienne reached for Aya's hand, her touch gentle despite her supernatural strength. Your blood carries markers that haven't been seen in generations. I sensed it immediately. Would you be willing to come with me tonight? There's something I need to show you. Against all rational judgment, Aya agreed to meet Vivienne after closing. That evening, dressed in her finest black dress, Aya waited nervously outside her shop. A sleek black car with tinted windows pulled up precisely at midnight. Vivienne emerged, stunning in a deep purple gown that seemed to flow like liquid shadow. You look beautiful, she said, her eyes briefly traveling down Aya's form. Where are we going? Aya asked as they slipped into the back seat. To my world, Vivian replied simply. The car descended into an underground passage beneath the city's financial district, eventually emerging in a vast subterranean complex. Ornate buildings merged classical architecture with modern design, illuminated by soft lights that didn't hurt vampire eyes. Well-dressed figures moved through elegant plazas, some clearly vampires, others possibly human servants or allies. "Welcome to Nocturne," Vivian said as they exited the car. The hidden heart of vampire society in this region. As they walked, Vivian explained that vampire society was at a crossroads. The traditionalists, led by her cousin, Commander Rena, believed in maintaining strict separation from humans, while progressives like Vivian advocated for controlled integration and cooperation. The Crimson Prophecy had become a flashpoint in this ideological battle. "Many fear what you represent," Vivian explained, guiding Aya through opulent hallways toward what appeared to be a grand ballroom. "But I see hope inside." Dozens of vampires in formal attire mingled and danced. Music from an orchestra filled the space. Though Aya noticed the compositions were unfamiliar, vampire music evolved separately over centuries. Conversations hushed as they entered. Vivian stood tall, her hand at the small of Aya's back. "Yes, I've brought a human guest," she announced to the room. "Ms. Nakamura is under my protection tonight." A striking woman with silver-streaked black hair and a military bearing approached. Her eyes, a cold blue that seemed to glow faintly, assessed Aya with undisguised disdain. "Cousin," she said to Vivian, ignoring Aya completely. "This display is beneath you, Commander Rena," Vivian replied coolly. "Ms. Nakamura is my invited guest. You will treat her with respect." Rena's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Of course. Our laws of hospitality are sacred, even for pets." She glided away before Vivian could respond. "I'm sorry about that," Vivian whispered. "Rena leads the Council's security forces and holds significant influence." "She sees me as a threat," Aya observed. "Yes," Vivian confirmed. "But she doesn't yet know just how important you might be." As the night progressed, Aya met several of Vivian's allies, including Arya, Vivian's loyal bodyguard who moved with lethal grace, and Kai, a vampire scientist working on synthetic blood alternatives. When the orchestra began a haunting waltz, Vivian extended her hand. "Would you dance with me?" "It would make quite a statement," Aya accepted, and they moved onto the floor. Vivian led with perfect precision, their bodies moving in sync as if they'd danced together for years. Aya became acutely aware of Vivian's supernatural presence, the subtle power in her frame, the faint scent like winter roses, the coolness of her skin. "Everyone's watching us," Aya whispered. "Let them," Vivian replied, drawing her closer. "I've waited centuries to find you. I'm not hiding that." Their eyes locked as Vivian guided them through a graceful turn. For a moment, the room around them seemed to fade away. Aya felt something inexplicable pass between them, a connection that transcended their different natures. "Vivian," she whispered, "what's happening between us?" Before Vivian could answer, a commotion erupted at the entrance. Cooper stumbled in, clearly having followed them somehow. 2 vampire guards flanked him, restraining his arms. "Aya!" he called out, struggling against his captors. "Are you okay?" Commander Rena materialized beside the guards, her expression triumphant. "It seems your human guest brought a friend, cousin. How careless of you to allow a journalist into Nocturne." Vivian's face hardened as she stepped protectively in front of Aya. "Release him immediately. He's under my protection now as well." The room tensed as Rena and Vivian faced off. Centuries of vampire politics hung in the balance, with Aya and Cooper caught in the middle. "Very well," Rena finally conceded, "but the Council will hear of this breach. Both humans must leave immediately." As they were escorted out, Vivian whispered to Aya, "This isn't over. I'll come to you tomorrow night. Be careful, you're now on Rena's radar." Back in her apartment above the bookshop, Aya faced Cooper's barrage of questions and concern. "What have you gotten yourself into?" he demanded. "Something bigger than either of us imagined?" Aya replied, staring out at the night sky. "Despite the danger, She couldn't help touching her lips, still feeling the ghost of Vivian's breath against her skin during their dance. Something had awakened inside her, a longing for a world she never knew existed, and a woman who had lived through centuries waiting for her. Blood bonds. The next evening, Aya paced her apartment, jumping at every shadow. Cooper had reluctantly agreed to keep Vivian's secret for now, though his journalist instincts clearly battled with his loyalty to Aya. The shop below remained closed, a family emergency sign hanging in the window. A soft tap at her balcony window made her gasp. Vivian hovered outside. Her ability to float one of many vampire powers Aya was still struggling to comprehend. "May I come in?" Vivian asked, her voice muffled through the glass. "I thought vampires needed verbal invitations," Aya said as she slid the window open. Vivian smiled as she gracefully stepped inside. "Hollywood exaggeration, we can enter anywhere, though private dwellings do create a slight resistance without permission." She looked around the cozy apartment with its overflowing bookshelves and mismatched furniture. "I like your home. It feels like you. Is Cooper safe?" Aya asked immediately. "For now," Vivian assured her. "I've assigned Arya to watch him discreetly." She removed her coat, revealing a simple black turtleneck and pants that somehow looked runway-ready on her. "But we need to move quickly. Rena is mobilizing against us." Aya offered tea, which Vivian politely declined. "Can you eat or drink anything?" Aya asked curiously. "We can," Vivian explained, settling onto Aya's sofa. "We simply derive no nutrition from it, and our senses find most human food bland." She hesitated. "Blood is the only exception, especially blood freely given." Their eyes met, an unspoken question hanging between them. "What exactly does the prophecy say about me?" Aya asked. Changing the subject, Vivian produced a small leather-bound journal from her coat. "I've translated the relevant passages," she read aloud. "When the crimson moon rises for the third time in a century, one will emerge whose blood calls to the ancient lineages, born of humanity but kissed by forgotten stars. This chosen one will either mend the severed bonds or shatter them forever. Through willing sacrifice or loving union, two worlds will find their fate intertwined." "Willing sacrifice?" Aya repeated uneasily. "The traditionalists, like Rena, interpret this to mean the chosen one must die to restore the natural order, keeping our worlds permanently separated." Vivian's voice tightened. "I believe it means something else entirely. A metaphorical sacrifice, perhaps, of prejudice and fear." She reached for Aya's hand. "But we need proof to convince the council." Over the next week, Vivian taught Aya about vampire society while they researched the prophecy's true meaning. Each night, Vivian arrived after sunset, bringing ancient texts and artifacts. They worked side by side, their shoulders touching, the air between them increasingly charged with unspoken attraction. Vivian showed Aya how to defend herself, teaching basic combat techniques against supernatural strength. During one session, Vivian pinned Aya against the wall, their faces inches apart, both breathing heavily despite Vivian's lack of physical need. "I could hurt you so easily," Vivian whispered, her eyes shifting to that crimson hue that emerged with strong emotion. "But you won't," Aya replied with certainty, her pulse racing not from fear but anticipation. Vivian's gaze dropped to Aya's neck, then her lips. "No. I would never hurt you." Her cool fingers traced Aya's jawline. "But I want—" The moment shattered as Aya's phone rang, Cooper calling with news that someone had broken into his apartment and stolen his research notes on vampires. "Rena," Vivian growled, "we need to move you somewhere safe." That night, they gathered essential items and texts. As Aya packed clothes, Vivian studied a star chart. The crimson eclipse approaches in 3 days. It's a rare astronomical event when Mars passes between Earth and a particular star mentioned in the prophecy. "What happens during this eclipse?" Aya asked. "According to the texts, it's when the ritual must be performed, whatever that ritual truly is." Vivian looked troubled. "We still don't know if it requires your death or something else entirely." A crash from downstairs interrupted them. Arya burst through the door, a streak of blood across her face. "Commander Rena has deployed hunters. We need to leave now." They barely escaped through a hidden passage in Aya's building, as black-clad figures with strange weapons swarmed the shop. Vivian led them through a labyrinth of underground tunnels, eventually emerging in an abandoned subway station converted into a safe house. Cooper was waiting, his expression grim. They took everything I had on vampires, including photos of you two. I'm sorry I dragged you into this, Aya told him. Are you kidding? Cooper managed to smile despite his obvious fear. This is the story of a lifetime if we live to tell it. Arya secured the perimeter while Vivian spread their research materials across a table. The eclipse begins at midnight in 3 days. The ritual must be performed at the ancient temple beneath Crestfall Cathedral. But what exactly is the ritual? Aya pressed. Vivian hesitated before revealing a crucial discovery. We found references to blood union rather than sacrifice. I believe it's not your death that's required, but a willing blood exchange. You mean you would drink from me and I from you? Aya asked, her voice steady despite the implication. Yes, Vivian confirmed, a true blood bond, something forbidden between our kinds for centuries. She looked deeply into Aya's eyes. It would change you, not into a full vampire, but something between. You would retain your humanity while gaining some of our abilities and lifespan, Cooper interjected. And if you're wrong about the interpretation? Vivian's face darkened. Then the ritual could kill Aya, or worse, that night. Unable to sleep, Aya found Vivian standing alone in an adjoining chamber, staring at ancient symbols carved into the wall. You're afraid? Aya observed quietly. I've lived for over 3 centuries, Vivian replied without turning. In all that time, I've never found anyone who made me feel so. She finally faced Aya. Human Aya stepped closer. I'm not afraid of the bond, you should be. Vivian's voice broke slightly. My world is dangerous. And what I feel for you is. She trailed off. What do you feel? Aya whispered, closing the distance between them. Instead of answering with words, Vivian gently cupped Aya's face. Their lips met in a kiss that began tentatively but quickly deepened. Aya gasped at the sensation. Vivian's lips were cool at first but warmed against hers. She tasted faintly sweet, with an underlying current that made Aya's head spin. Vivian's supernatural control faltered as the kiss intensified. Aya felt herself lifted and pressed against the wall, Vivian's strength evident yet carefully restrained. Their bodies fit together perfectly as centuries of longing poured from Vivian. When they finally separated, Vivian's eyes glowed crimson, her breathing ragged despite not needing air. I've waited lifetimes for you, she confessed. Aya touched Vivian's face wonderingly. Then why wait any longer? Their second kiss led them deeper into the shadows of the chamber. Clothing gradually discarded as they explored each other with increasing urgency. Vivian's supernatural senses allowed her to respond to Aya's every unspoken desire, her cool touches warming wherever they lingered. I've never... Aya gasped as Vivian's lips traced down her neck. I know, Vivian whispered against her skin. Trust me, Aya surrendered to sensations she'd never imagined possible. Vivian's centuries of experience evident in every caress. When they finally lay entwined in the darkness, Vivian's head resting on Aya's chest, listening to the heartbeat she no longer possessed, a peaceful silence enveloped them. Whatever happens with the ritual, Aya murmured, stroking Vivian's dark hair. This was worth it. Vivian raised herself on one elbow, studying Aya's face with tender wonder. You've awakened something in me I thought long dead. A strange irony for one already among the undead. Their peaceful moment ended abruptly when Arya burst in. Commander Rena's forces have found us. They've taken Cooper. Crimson Eclipse. They'll use him as bait, Arya explained as they hurriedly gathered their research. Rena knows you'll come for him. Vivian's face hardened into the cold mask of a vampire aristocrat, centuries of commanding others evident in her bearing. This ends tonight, Arya. Gather our allies. She turned to Aya, softening slightly. I won't force you into this. Cooper is my friend, Aya replied firmly. And I'm tired of running. The prophecy is about me. I need to face this. They split up, Arya to rally Vivian's supporters while Vivian and Aya headed to meet Kai, who had been analyzing Aya's blood sample. As they navigated the labyrinthine tunnels beneath the city, Vivian explained more about vampire society and the significance of the coming eclipse. The crimson eclipse occurs once every 70 years, she said, It's when the boundaries between human and vampire worlds are thinnest. Ancient vampires believed it was when our ancestors first crossed from their dimension to yours. You're saying vampires are aliens? Aya asked incredulously. Vivian smiled. More like interdimensional beings. The first vampires weren't created by infection or curse, but by a deliberate crossing of realities. Her expression grew serious. That's why Rena fears you so much. The prophecy suggests you could permanently alter the balance between our worlds. They emerged in an underground laboratory where Kai, a youthful-looking vampire with streaks of silver in his black hair, awaited them. His eyes widened at their disheveled appearance. I see you two have bonded, he commented wryly before turning serious. I've completed the analysis. Aya's blood contains markers I've only seen in one other place. Hybrid embryonic tissue. Hybrid? Aya repeated. Human vampire, Kai clarified. Supposedly impossible, yet your DNA shows signatures consistent with ancient vampire lineage. Dormant but present. He glanced at Vivian. She could be descended from an original hybrid line, perhaps from the last Crimson Eclipse ritual. Vivian absorbed this revelation. So the prophecy isn't about bringing someone new into the equation. It's about restoring a connection that was severed. My grandmother, Aya whispered. She always said our family had unusual heritage. She collected those books. We need to get to the cathedral before midnight, Kai urged. Rena will try to perform her version of the ritual, sacrificing both Cooper and Aya to permanently seal the dimensions. Arya returned with news. I've gathered 20 loyal fighters. She handed Aya a small blade with strange symbols. This is forged from meteorite metal. It can harm even the oldest vampires. As they prepared for battle, Vivian pulled Aya aside. If anything happens to me, what she began, Aya silenced her with a fierce kiss. Nothing will happen to either of us. I refuse to accept any other outcome. They set out at sunset, moving through the deepening shadows toward Crestfall Cathedral. The massive Gothic structure loomed against the darkening sky, its spires reaching toward the heavens while concealing ancient secrets beneath. As night fell completely, they could see vampire guards positioned around the perimeter. The moon began to rise, its usual silver light taking on a reddish hue, the beginning of the crimson eclipse. Remember the plan, Vivian whispered to her assembled allies. Arya leads the diversion at the north entrance while Kai's team secures the escape route. Aya and I will enter through the forgotten crypt passage. The attack began with supernatural swiftness. As Arya's forces engaged Rena's guards, Vivian led Aya to a weathered stone angel statue in the cathedral's old cemetery. Pressing specific points caused a hidden door to swing open, revealing narrow stairs descending into darkness. Stay close, Vivian murmured, taking Aya's hand. Her night vision guided them through the passage, which eventually opened into a vast underground chamber. Ancient stone columns supported a domed ceiling mapped with celestial patterns. In the center stood a circular altar, its surface carved with symbols matching those in the prophecy texts. Cooper lay bound upon it while Commander Rena stood nearby, examining an ornate dagger. Right on schedule, Rena said without looking up. The dutiful heiress and her human pet, arriving for the grand finale. Let him go, Rena, Vivian demanded, stepping into the chamber with Aya close behind. This isn't what the prophecy demands. Rena finally turned, her cold eyes gleaming in the strange light filtering from above, moonlight through some clever ancient mechanism in the cathedral floor. You've been blinded by sentiment, cousin. The prophecy is clear. Blood must be spilled to restore the natural order. You're wrong, Aya spoke up. I've studied the texts too. It speaks of union, not destruction. Rena laughed, the sound echoing eerily. And what would a human know of our sacred texts? She gestured and a dozen vampire guards emerged from the shadows. Seize them. The fight was brief but violent. Despite their training with Arya, Aya and Vivian were quickly overwhelmed by superior numbers. Disarmed and forced to their knees before Rena, they watched helplessly as the moon's light grew more crimson overhead, shining through an oculus in the cathedral floor and illuminating the altar. Perfect timing, Rena observed. The eclipse reaches its peak in minutes. She dragged Cooper from the altar, replacing him with Aya. The prophecy calls for the chosen one's blood to be spilled by one of royal lineage. As Vivian seems reluctant, "I shall perform this sacred duty." Vivian struggled against her captors. "The texts speak of willing union, a bond that bridges worlds, not destroys them. Fairy tales," Rena dismissed. "Our worlds were meant to be separate. This human's blood will seal the dimensions forever, as it should be." As Rena raised the ceremonial dagger, the chamber suddenly plunged into darkness. Confusion erupted among the guards. When emergency lights activated seconds later, Arya stood at the chamber entrance, blood-spattered but triumphant, with Kai and their allies behind them. In the chaos, Vivian broke free, launching herself at Rena with supernatural speed. They crashed against the altar, sending Aya rolling to safety. The two vampires fought with centuries of hatred behind each blow, moving too fast for human eyes to follow. Cooper, freed by Kai during the confusion, pulled Aya to safety. "We need to get out of here." "No," Aya said firmly, watching the battle rage around them. "We need to complete the true ritual." Above, the moon reached the perfect alignment, bathing the altar in blood-red light. Aya broke away from Cooper, running toward Vivian, who had momentarily gained the upper hand against Rena. "Vivian," she called, "the eclipse. It's now or never." Understanding immediately, Vivian kicked Rena away and reached for Aya. Together they moved to the altar, standing in the crimson moonlight. "Are you certain?" Vivian asked, her eyes searching Aya's. "This bond cannot be undone." "I've never been more certain of anything," Aya replied. As fighting continued around them, Vivian gently took Aya's face in her hands. "Then let us bridge the worlds." She leaned down, placing a tender kiss on Aya's lips before moving to her neck. "This will hurt at first," she whispered apologetically. Aya gasped as Vivian's fangs pierced her skin, the initial sharp pain quickly transforming into an intense, almost pleasurable sensation. She felt her life force flowing into Vivian, creating a connection that transcended physical boundaries. After taking just enough, Vivian pulled back, her eyes glowing with newfound power. Using her elongated nail, she cut a small line across her own throat. "Now you?" She guided gently. Aya hesitated only momentarily before pressing her lips to the wound. Vivian's blood tasted unlike anything she could have imagined. Ancient power, memories spanning centuries, and overwhelming emotion flowed into her. The crimson moonlight intensified around them, creating a swirling vortex of energy. The fighting around them stopped as everyone witnessed the extraordinary spectacle. A pulse of energy emanated from their joined forms, knocking everyone back. When the light faded, Aya stood transformed. Her eyes now held hints of Vivian's crimson, her senses heightened. Her very presence changed. "Impossible," Rena whispered. "A successful bonding." Aya felt incredible power flowing through her veins. Not full vampirism, but something new. A perfect balance between human and vampire. With newfound strength and speed, she moved to stand beside Vivian, facing Rena. "The prophecy is fulfilled," Vivian announced to the stunned chamber. "Not through death but through love. A new era begins tonight." Dawn of two worlds. The light of a new day filtered through the stained glass windows of Vivian's private sanctuary. Aya stood watching the sunrise, marveling at how the colors seemed more vivid through her enhanced senses. The blood bond had transformed her, not into a vampire, but something unique. "Still adjusting?" Vivian asked softly, approaching from behind to wrap her arms around Aya's waist. "It's overwhelming," Aya admitted. "I can hear heartbeats from rooms away, smell emotions, feel energy flowing through everything." She turned in Vivian's embrace. "Is this how you've experienced the world for centuries?" "Similar, though your perspective remains uniquely human," Vivian smiled, tracing Aya's jawline. "You're the perfect bridge, human compassion with vampire resilience." 3 weeks had passed since the Crimson Eclipse ritual. The aftermath had been chaotic but ultimately transformative for vampire society. Rena had been stripped of her position and placed under house arrest. The Vampire Council, impressed by the power demonstrated during the ritual, had reluctantly acknowledged Vivian's interpretation of the prophecy and appointed her as interim leader. Cooper had fully embraced his role as liaison between worlds, using his journalist skills to draft plans for gradually revealing vampire existence to selected human leaders. Meanwhile, Arya and Kai led efforts to reform vampire security forces and research divisions. "The council meeting is in an hour," Vivian reminded Aya. "Are you ready to present our integration proposal?" Aya nodded, though uncertainty flickered in her expression. "Do you really think they'll accept humans and vampires living openly together?" "Not immediately," Vivian admitted, "but change is inevitable now. Our ritual proved that cooperation brings strength." She kissed Aya gently. "What we have is living proof that our species are stronger together than apart." The council chambers were housed in an impressive underground structure that blended modern design with ancient vampire aesthetics. As Aya and Vivian entered, conversation hushed. Some council members still viewed their relationship with suspicion, while others had become cautious supporters after witnessing the ritual's power. Heiress Chen, and the council elder acknowledged and Ms. Nakamura. The fact that he addressed Aya directly represented significant progress. Vivian stood proudly. "Honorable Council, we come with a proposal for gradual integration. Our research suggests that controlled revelation over a 10-year period would minimize disruption to both societies while maximizing benefits." As Aya presented their detailed plan, she felt the weight of centuries watching her. The proposal outlined selective human-vampire exchanges in medicine, science, and culture with safeguards to prevent exploitation on either side. "And what of blood dependency?" one council member challenged. "Humans will fear us as predators." "Kai's synthetic blood research has advanced significantly," Aya responded confidently. "With vampire-human scientific collaboration, we believe complete synthetic substitution is possible within 5 years." The debate continued for hours, intense but increasingly productive. By session's end, the council had approved a modified version of their plan, a cautious first step toward integration. As they left the chambers, Cooper waited with news. "The human government representatives responded to our initial contact. They want a meeting," Vivian squeezed Aya's hand. "Progress comes in small steps." She turned to Cooper. "Schedule it for next week. We'll need to prepare extensive demonstrations of goodwill." Later that evening, Aya and Vivian retreated to the rooftop garden of Vivian's penthouse. The city lights spread below them like earthbound stars, humans and hidden vampires moving through their separate but increasingly connected lives. "Do you ever regret it?" Vivian asked quietly. "Binding yourself to me to this complicated new existence?" Aya considered the question seriously. The past weeks had brought challenges, adapting to her new abilities, navigating vampire politics, explaining her transformation to her few close friends. Yet they had also brought joy beyond imagination, the depth of connection with Vivian, the exhilaration of her enhanced senses, the purpose of building a bridge between worlds. "Not for a moment," she replied honestly, pulling Vivian closer. "I was always meant to find you. Even before I knew you existed, I felt like I was waiting for something." She traced the delicate veins visible beneath Vivian's pale skin. "Though I never imagined it would be a 1,000-year-old vampire aristocrat, 327, Vivian corrected with mock offense. "I'm practically young by council standards." They laughed together, the sound carrying across the night air. Below, Cooper was meeting with Arya and Kai to finalize security for the upcoming human delegation. In Forgotten Whispers, new books on vampire-human relations were being carefully curated for eventual public education. "What happens next?" Aya asked, looking toward the horizon where the faintest hint of dawn was still hours away. A dawn she could now partially share with her vampire partner. Vivian's eyes reflected the city lights as she gazed at the woman who had changed everything. "We write our own prophecy now, together." Their lips met as the night embraced them. Two beings from once separate worlds now inextricably bound. Around them, the city continued its rhythm, unaware that a new era had already begun. An era where ancient divisions would gradually heal through understanding, courage, and love that transcended the boundaries of life and death themselves. In the quiet moments before sleep claimed her, Aya reflected on how a simple rare book and a stormy night had altered her destiny forever. As Vivian held her close, Their heartbeats synchronized, one ancient and revived, one human yet changed. She knew they faced challenges ahead, but they would face them together, bridging worlds with every step.